I'm ultra marathon pumped about this week's podcast. And I know that sounds funny, but I've got Dr. Bretz on. He has some pretty cool stats we're going to talk about when it comes to running ultra marathons. But the big thing is he's written a book, Turning Right, Inspire the Magic, and he's going to share some leadership thoughts with us. How are you, mate?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me, Greg.
Mate, exciting. What type of things are we going to talk about today?
Well, we could talk about the book, but I think even more important is talking about the listener and see what they can get out of it, because I think the main theme of the book is really to not play small and find a gear which all shifts us one level up.
Who doesn't love hearing that? Let's rip in.
Welcome to the Body Science Podcast. As always, the information contained in this podcast is for the information purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or be prescriptive to treat, prevent or manage any injury, disease or other health-related condition.
Welcome to Body Science HQ, the world of fit, happy, healthy. And with me today is Kai. Kai has a claim of being, you ready? Champion ultra marathon runner of the fastest ever 24-hour world championship. Is that correct, mate? Have I got that right?
That sounds, it sounds pretty spot on.
I've got a couple of questions that come to mind straight away. Firstly, without wanting to be a world champion at that level, what makes you want to run for 24 hours? I did 5Ks this morning just between you and me, and I fought my head the whole time.
Yes, it's probably the same reason why I started doing that, is seeing how could I overcome that fighting of the head. And
yes.
just you won't believe it, but there are blissful moments in 24 hours of just running and not doing anything else when you stop the fighting.
To compete at the World Championship, is there a big qualifying process here, or are the numbers thin? It's like, I'm in, give me a go. Like, how does it work?
Well, I wish it was that way, but it is very competitive here in Australia to get in. Mm-hmm. So, and that is the case because a few years back, the Australian national team got a silver medal as a team at the World Championships. So It's a really good team. So basically you need an A qualifier. And if you think of all the other sports, there are always A qualifiers and B qualifiers. And an A qualifier for a 24-hour World Championship is 240 kilometers within the 24 hours. So to translate that, you have to run 6 minutes per kilometer for 24 hours nonstop. That's what you have to do.
I didn't even run 6 this morning for 5. I'm embarrassed. Honestly, let's be honest. Let's talk about this. Did you have a massive support team leading into that? Did you have incredible nutritional support? Do you have... Oh, I'd want a physio traveling with me if I was doing those type of kilometers. But what did you have? What keeps you on the road to get to that level?
You are actually spot on. It's everything. It also includes obviously physical training, but it's almost the hygiene part, the part which you have to do, but it's not the part which really distinguishes how well you are going. So yes, getting the nutrition right. Luckily, I found a team years back, and they somehow sorted out for me what works with my body. And just to, as you say, to stomach food for 24 hours
Absolutely.
Is you need to train your gut to do that. Then physio and massage, absolutely crucial to get those aches and pains on top of them before you get into any injury. Probably the biggest thing is the mental part. Mm-hmm. It's really, where does the head go? And you said it's so easy to fight and to somehow to just go into that disaster spiral downwards. And how do you avoid that? Because it will come up in 24 hours. Typically, those races start sometime in the morning, like between 9 a.m. and noon. And then you have to run until next 9 a.m. or noon, which means those hours in the blackest of night, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., they can be really, really disastrous.
Yeah, I can imagine. So can we just step back to the food a bit? That interests me. You're running 6s. So what are you actually running? Are you stopping to eat, or are you continuing to maintain pace while you consume calories? Or what are you doing during the 24 hours?
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, in the World Championships, I ran 259 kilometers, so close to 260. So I was running just a bit slower than 5:30s per kilometer. And probably what I was doing was very close to 5-minute pace of running. Yeah. Did that for roughly 1.4 kilometers. And then every lap, so every 1.5 kilometers, I had 100 meters of walking. And I did that religiously. Okay. Because it's just easier on the body, and it's that kind of getting the heart rate slightly down, and it allows to either drink something or to eat something. And it is an eating contest. So it's a well catered hike in those 100 meters where, it ranges from eating bananas is easy. Dip, mashed potatoes is relatively easy to stomach. You can put some salt into it. Is anything with carbs which is easy to swallow? I actually liked eating salted chips.
Yeah.
Just for that salt as well to not cramp, and it's whatever you can stomach. I mean, it's just constantly every 10 minutes I'm eating something. It's just small quantities while I'm walking.
Most people wouldn't even fathom that, like the idea of having to run at that speed, stop and eat something. Like it's the last thing you feel like when you're running. So from that mental perspective and resetting yourself and aligning yourself, how do you take yourself from being an everyday human? And I'll let you talk about your by yourself in a second, actually. How do you go from being that person to someone who's now got to look at, I'm running 24 hours and I've got my game plan on. So are you running up to a table and going, I don't want them today, I want this, or I'm this, or you know what the first meal is, the second meal, the third? How much planning goes into for someone who's never going to do it? I'm just interested for a mate.
Yeah. So for that hypothetical mate, it helps having a good plan. But then you also need to know that the plan will be thrown overboard relatively quickly.
Yep.
It's so it comes back to that support team, and in my case it was particularly my partner Rebecca who supported me in every of my 24-hour runs. So it's quite a strain as well on just asking people to be there for 24 hours and give up their night and just support. She obviously knows me pretty well, and we have a plan of saying this is roughly what I want to eat at what stages, and then we have the agreement of, she just says, this is what you're eating. So really decisiveness, that's what I need as a runner, is somebody being decisive. This is what I'm eating.
Yep.
And unless I have a strong reaction to it and say, no, I don't want that, I want X instead, that's what I'm getting. And I'm pretty good at just taking what I'm told to do in those moments. Yeah. Probably like 18 hours in, it shifts a little bit. And it's also a good indicator for my support crew of where am I at mentally, like how much whinging is there, and like, can I just take whatever is given? Is it a gel this time? Do I get a cup of soup? What do I get? And sometimes I just really have a wish, and I know if I get something sweet, for example, that might lift my spirits.
Yeah, okay. And before I jump into the evolution of how you got to 24, talking about the evolution of getting to become a 24-hour marathoner, were you a great runner in other disciplines, or did you just go, I'm just going to run for 24 hours? Like, how did you get to where you're at?
How I got there, probably I need to dig a little bit into the history there. So I was very much the weekend warrior. So in the corporate world, working Monday to Friday, pretty senior position. So that kind of weekend warrior, running marathons, 2 a year, 3 a year, whatever really fitted in, chasing another personal best. So a lot of achievement focus there as well. And at some stage, it was pretty obvious. Some of what happened was I just wasn't inspired by it anymore. It was just achieving another personal best, and it got 9 seconds here and 40 seconds there, and then I didn't manage to get a personal best, and then it's like the end of the world. So I was just sick of it. It wasn't worth someone putting all that effort in. And to put it in perspective, when I started marathon running, I was very much middle of the pack. So my very first marathon, probably 20 odd years ago, was 4 hours 15. It's an okay time, but it's far from world class. It's more than double of the time of a world record. So it's an okay time. And I worked my way over the years to running a 2:44 marathon, which is decent, but still it's far from world class. And then I just stepped up, and that's probably the story of turning right, how I got there. I just noticed I needed something completely new, and that was, I signed up for a 250-kilometer race in Queensland in the desert.
Okay.
And I just said, I need something completely out of my comfort zone, get me out of my rut, see what is possible. And I had no clue how would I ever run 250 kilometers if on sand through the Simpson Desert in the middle of nowhere. Like, how would I do that if the maximum which I'd ever done was a city marathon on bitumen in very measured conditions where everything was predictable in a city.
Not to mention safer.
And safer.
Yeah, let's not.
And that was how I got into long distance running. And then I did so ultra marathons, for the ones who don't know what that exactly means, it's anything longer than a marathon.
Yep.
So a 50-kilometer race, for example, is a typical entry point. I went straight to a multi-stage 250-kilometer race.
Kilometers.
And then I did a 100-kilometer race in one go. And then 24 hours just happened. And to the 24 hours, the first one I did, to make it even worse, it was around a 400-meter athletics track. So I just, for 24 hours, I was never further away from somehow my support crew than probably 100 meters away, because, I mean, how far can you get on a 400-meter track?
Wow. Yeah. And preparing yourself for the desert run, is there a whole lot of rules and regulations that you have to pass to do that? Or do you have to have a certain structure of team? And because I assume that they don't have people holding hands for the distance to make sure that you're safe, and there's not a whole lot of people that have walked out of their houses to watch the runners go past.
Correct. So obviously there is a lot of ownership you have to take, I mean, for your own safety. So in a way, you sign your life away in a way.
Yep.
And you need to be very comfortable that you're capable of running. Now, to keep you safe, probably GPS beacons are really the best measure you somehow have. So you don't want to get lost in the desert and nobody finds you. At the race I was doing, the race director had a helicopter, so they were somehow never far away from wherever you were. There's also a lot of course marking, so you don't really get off track. You still have maps. So there are lots of measures in place to keep it safe, which is very important. And that's true for any of those trail ultra marathons, which I've done since. So the longest one I've done was through WA in summer, 350 kilometers in one go. And it was very similar, where you have snakes around you, and it's even if anything happened, which luckily nothing did, you're never far away from anybody, and you have all the kind of measures in place to mitigate whatever happens.
And are you running with nutrition, or are you running to nutrition in those scenarios?
So it's both. So that's another measure. You always have mandatory gear. Mm-hmm. So you're running with a backpack, and you have some mandatory gear in there from safety vest at night, and obviously also stuff to eat and to drink. So I typically would carry 2 to 4 liters of water. And then you do get to checkpoints where you can refill and pick up new nutrition as well, depending on the distance.
I won't harp too much, and so I find it amazing. I love talking to athletes about their sport. Do you have to pass medicals when you're finished before you're allowed to leave, or is it pretty much over the line, grab your medal, thanks heaps, and off you go?
So pretty much the medicals would always. So in every race rule, you pretty much have the medical has the right to pull you out of the race. Mm-hmm. That is part of it. So if they deem you not to be fit to continue, and it's somehow it's dangerous, they can pull you out, and I think that's the right thing. And then therefore they have an eye on you. That has never happened to me, of a medical pulling me out. You can always approach medicals if you need them, and otherwise it is really a self-ownership model where do the right thing. You have somehow a support crew which also somehow flags when there are issues. And yes, there has been a race, for example, when medically I was deemed to be fit, so the things they measured they were okay, but I knew that I wasn't in the right shape to go through the conditions which we were facing. Yeah. And that was the one and only time where I pulled out of a race, because I and my support group, we just knew there was a 50-50 chance. That's the value we put on that, 50-50 chance to actually break down in the middle of the race. And that's not worth it in my eyes. In the end, it needs to be fun. I'm not earning money through this, and health is more important than some sort of glory and stupidity.
I love that. And you mentioned a second ago that getting up and doing what you need to do these races was one of the turning points towards your book. You're an author, for those people who don't know. The book's Turning Right, Inspire the Magic. Mate, do you want to let us in on a little bit of background about the book? Like a mate of mine, Luke Mathers, has read your book, and he's a mad avid reader. He loves speakers. He's all about motivational people, and he just said, Greg, you've got to talk to this guy. He's just next level. And one of the things that he said to me when talking about your book was it's got a lot to do with people who are looking to get off the hamster wheel. Is that correct in me saying that type of thing? So what do you mean by that? Like turning right, inspire the magic. That's an interesting topic.
Yeah. So this is the picture. As you hear from my accent, I'm not originally Australian. So my background is German. Lots of people might have thought I'm South African, but coming from Germany. So picture a typical German in your own stereotypes, and you're probably spot on of who I was at the beginning of this journey. So very measured, very disciplined, very probably also very stubborn, and running one marathon after the other, really chasing my own tail and just doing what it took.
Yep.
And that law of diminishing return, that was kicking in. So I couldn't really see where am I going next. And a mentor of mine, he somehow saw from the outside of what got me there would not get me any further. He could see that, but also like a good mentor and a good coach, he couldn't tell me that, and I wouldn't have listened to him anyway because, well, what do you mean? I mean, he said once, he said, Kai, your problem is you're too structured. And my reaction was pretty much, no, go away. Structure is my life.
Yep.
And so what he did was he prescribed me one run a week, and he called that a mystery run. And what he meant by that, he invented, by the way, that kind of term. What he meant by it was I had to let go of any control for that one run a week. So a friend of mine who was very competitive and a really good short and middle distance runner would take control of the run. And all I had to do was to follow whatever he was doing without knowing at any point in time how fast we were going to run, for how long we were going to run for, what was going to happen next.
Running for the love of running.
Running for the love of running and completely relinquishing control.
No control at all, yeah.
Absolutely. So in my head, the first question was, when is it fair to give up? And that sums up the mindset I was in. It was this kind of, I'm disciplined, but when is it fair to give up? Because
did that kick in earlier with you under that scenario versus your traditional structured scenario?
Yeah, it would. I mean, I would always limit myself by my own expectations of what rationally made sense I would pursue. And then if I thought, well, that's not doable, it's that kind of motivation not to fail. I was driven by that. It sounded like glory, it sounded like success, but actually it was avoiding failure. That's what my life was all about. And I was hiding it very well. Even I couldn't see that. So that was some of the premise to the first mystery run of just we're going for a run, and Corey, this friend of mine, sooner or later he would break me, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified.
Is that right?
So what happened was Corey was thriving upon his power over me, saying, "Oh, mate, I'm going to make you suffer." And he picked me up from my house in Albert Park in Melbourne, and we walked through the front door and through the garden gate, and Corey turned right. So I obviously had to turn right as well.
Yep.
And we hadn't even run a single meter, and that was a huge aha moment for me, because never, ever had I in my life turned right at my garden gate.
Turned left and run from there.
It was
unbelievable.
It was Groundhog Day every single day. So I was like, every day I went for a run, every day I would get out, turn left. And it was just experiencing that there is something to the right and just noticing what Corey was doing to me. It was, I could feel and sense that I was expecting to keep doing the same thing and getting a different result. It was really that experience.
Yep.
And turning right, so you say, well, obviously directing my intellect also kicked in and saying, well, does it matter to turn right? Because whether I turn right or turn left, I will not be a better runner. And I have to say, and that's what the book is all about, I couldn't be more wrong. It's obvious, and it's not about running. It's about doing something different to our default and then seeing what kind of magic unfolds from there. Because really, to lift ourselves to another level, we have to let go of something. And in my case, I had to let go of some discipline. And I had to let go in running of some discipline because I didn't let any innovation come in. I didn't let any kind of my expectations were all limited by my intellect of saying, well, I can run another 5-second PB. Well, what if I just run and see what happens? And that's what happened when I then figuratively turned right. So instead of running marathons, I said, I'm signing up for a 250k race. That was a massive right turn just to practice what will happen. And obviously I didn't know what would happen. I didn't have a target. I didn't have really a big plan because I didn't know what would happen. And the magic which unfolded from that race was I participated and I improved the race record by more than 5 hours.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow.
Boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey team, it's Greg from Body Science here. The Hydroxyburn Shred is back on shelf. It's our new therapeutic, has all the taste. And if you're looking for a better thermogenic, we've really pushed for the pursuit of a better thermogenic. Full disclosure on the labelling. What do we mean? Caffeine levels have changed. We all know the rules have changed. The ingredients have changed. The claims have changed. We have a clean label with premium quality ingredients for you. So what does that mean for you? You can look at things like metabolism, energy, sugar metabolism, fat metabolism, cognitive function, thyroid, and just general health and well-being. And it's all on the label. If you're taking a fat burner now and it doesn't say it on the label, have a look at it and go, why? Get on board. Well, magic and miracles is like what you're talking about here. Is it inspires me as someone in business. What does the corporate world think about your book when you talk about it?
So interestingly, I think this very week I had multiple conversations all around someone being surprised, saying, oh, this is actually not a running book. And I couldn't agree more because it isn't a running book. Running has just been the vehicle where I've found a lot of personal growth. But some of the kind of that experience of letting go of stuff which doesn't serve us anymore that's crucial in business. And where it translates into business and probably where any leaders of any kind get most benefit is that kind of how do we actually find something magical in what we do? That sounds airy-fairy, but then always link it back to some kind of clear achievement. So what is your 5 hours of improvement? Like in your world, what is it and what do you have to do? Like when I was still in the corporate world, a leader at one of the big supermarkets, the first right turn I did at work was I was very prepared, which is great, but I was never giving any room in meetings for anything else to come up other than what I was planning for. So I never was really listening.
Yeah,
that was a right turn for me. Now, I don't know what is a right turn for others, but the people I work with, because now I'm an executive coach and help businesses thrive in their world, is they notice, well, they might be too domineering. They might be actually too arrogant and say, well, we've got all the answers and we don't need to listen to anybody else. There can be lots of things, lots of reactive patterns, but all of them have in common that they are very helpful. They get us pretty far in life, and then they hold us back from getting to the next level.
I love it. So Turning Right, Inspire the Magic, where can we get your book?
Wherever you get books from, you can go online and you find it at big at online retailers.
Yep.
If you're not in lockdown and your bookshops are open, go and get it. So for example, a Dimmicks has it, any other bookstore can get my book as well.
Yep.
And probably for quite many, it would be interesting to know that I've got an audiobook as well.
Nice.
And so you can just listen to my voice and let me tell you the story.
I love it. I love it. So where are you most social these days? Are you Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn? Where are you playing?
All three of them. Probably most active at the moment on LinkedIn.
Yep.
But I'm on all three of them.
So for those people that we have a big social media following here in the Instagram space. So your Bretz Turning Right, but it's actually spelled K-A-Y, not K-Y or K-Y-E. So it's K-A-Y-B-R-E-T-Z Turning Right. If I jump on that page, am I seeing running pictures? Am I seeing motivational quotes? What's there?
So you will find quite a lot from running. You will find quite a lot about the book as well.
Yep.
And you will find whatever is really moving in my world. So there will also be more stuff coming once here in Melbourne we can actually do face-to-face workshops and that stuff, which is at the moment a little bit constricted, obviously, through our lockdown.
Look, I'm in marketing. People know that who listen to this. Have you considered doing an ultra marathon in your kitchen?
I wouldn't say no to it, but the first question which comes up for me is why, and I say it not because it's anything which is a challenge I'm in.
Yeah. I love that.
But after having run, 531 laps around an oval, which took quite a lot of mental preparation, just running around the kitchen, it's not that different. So, the why is not yet clear to me there.
Okay, we need to turn right on that one then.
Nice one.
How many pairs of shoes a year you roll through?
Pretty much I'm going, a pair of shoes lasts like 600 to 1,000 kilometers for me, and I run 6,000 to 8,000 kilometers a year, so make it 10 pairs of shoes, roughly.
Oh, that's not too bad. I thought it was going to be a lot more than that, to be honest. So for anyone out there, Kai, who's looking to get into long distance running because they're looking to find their magic like you have, is it a sport you recommend to people, or is it something that you try and dig deep to something more personal?
I think, so anybody who isn't a runner, I would never try to convert anybody there.
Yeah.
So it's really, if it doesn't float your boat, I wouldn't start with long distance running, because it might be a bridge too far.
Yeah.
But if you like running, if you like somehow 10 kilometers, potentially even marathons, and you're the type of person who finds some kind of meaning in pushing yourself further or running through areas you've never run through. So it took me to the Simpson Desert. I ran a race in amazing. China, which was absolutely stunning, World Championships. So I never thought that I would make it to World Championships, or through just the trails of Western Australia. There is quite a lot of just exciting stuff. So if you like that kind of adventure, give it a go.
Nice. And mate, for those budding book authors out there, was it difficult to write your book? Like the process, not the actual paragraph by paragraph, but the whole everyone I talk to wants to write a book. Like they don't say it out loud, but you can tell people would like to give their story. Did you find it a difficult process to start?
Yes and no. So yes, it was difficult because first of all, I'm not a native English speaker, and then I'm not an author in a way. I'd never written a book other than my thesis, and the thesis is very different from this kind of book. So you won't find any concepts in this book. It's really a story. And it took me 3.5 years to write it. So yes, I did it lots of weekends and then some focus time. It's what I found most difficult was I had no vulnerability at all at the beginning. So I was telling a glory story. And I was surprised reading that glory story that it didn't really excite me. It was like...
That's gold. Really, that's the best line I've ever heard. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it didn't really resonate with a few people who I gave a chapter here and a chapter there, where somehow it didn't excite them. And that's probably after Big Red Run, the story continued with a race which was a complete disaster. And when that happened, the first thing in my mind was, well, the book is dead. It's like I've failed. I can't talk about that. So life is over here in terms of the book. And for me, it was. So writing the book was, for my personal growth, quite a journey of just accepting that I'm not a superhero, and that there is way more richness in the failures and in the difficult times than in talking about any of that success. So that took me a while, and what I now find very exciting. Just a couple of weeks ago, my book was awarded its first prize. So nice. In a book award in the US, I won the silver medal for best memoir written by a male.
That's great news. That's awesome. Love hearing our little Aussie authors having success around the world. That's something to be very proud of. How did you go publishing a book in the US from Australia when you can't travel?
So in a way, it's I've published it here in Australia and New Zealand. So that's where you would find it in physical bookstores in these two countries. And then elsewhere in the world, you can get it through Amazon and the likes, and they have print on demand. So basically, they print things locally, and then you get it. So I'm not in bookstores anywhere else in the world. Yep. Obviously, especially in these times, most of the market is online anyway. Yep. So very exciting and very humbling to win in the US, which certainly is incredible. A big market in itself.
Yep. So Dr. Kai Bretz, Turning Right, Inspire the Magic. Grab his book, download it where you get your favourite books from. Thanks for coming on, mate. It was great to chat. It's inspirational. We didn't even really touch on you as an entrepreneur. I mean, you've played with Woolworths and Coles, and you've been buyers at the highest level, and we play in that space too. So, full credit where that's due. Like, that's an amazing, you don't get to those levels in those companies by being someone who's not driven. And to see you come out the other end and changing people's lives and helping them inspire their magic is something that would get me out of bed every day. And I salute you for that. Well done.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on board. So once again, turninglight.com is the website. Jump on there. I'm sure you'll find any information you want to find out.